I've watched a bunch of beginner reviews for the Makera Carvera Air. Most of them start off simple, then 5 minutes in it's like you've accidentally enrolled in an engineering degree. So when I say I'm a beginner, I mean it. Before this machine turned up, I didn't even know what CNC stood for. So if you're wondering whether this device can really turn sheets, blocks or cylinders of wood and metal into signs, art or functional parts at home, this machine is a machine that can do those things. Seriously though, this isn't just another quick demo of the default project. I wanted to see what this thing could actually do in the real world. So if you fancy watching the advanced version of a monkey learning to use a typewriter or just want a laugh, here's what it's really like for a complete beginner using their first CNC. Hi, I'm Ross, the aforementioned monkey, and this is Faux Hammer Videos. Come with me now as we dive into the world of computer numerical control, which for the record is basically 3D printing in reverse, with wood and metal. Now I usually review 3D printers, mostly resin, occasionally an FDM machine if I'm feeling reckless, but when Makera randomly got in touch and offered me the Carvera Air for review, I thought, sure, I could use a palette cleanser, and also, I like free stuff. Honestly, I don't even care if this video flops because I got a free CNC machine out of it. But if you're a beginner like me, or an experienced user curious how approachable this machine is from scratch, stick around. I typically do reviews a bit differently to most. I'm not a fan of reading out the specs you can easily find on websites. I'd rather tell you what these things are actually like to use. The important bits I have learned that I need to share is that this is the Carvera Air, the baby sibling to the larger Carvera. Both of them are desktop CNC machines rather than the massive room-sized ones you'd find in most industrial workshops. This is the kind of CNC you could actually use in the average regular home, if you've got space for a workshop. Now the larger Carvera would give you a 36 by 24 by 14 centimeter work area, whereas this Air drops that slightly to 30 by 20 by 13 centimeters. Aside from that, the missing automated tool changer plus a couple of other bits I'll get onto later, this is still a beast of a machine, especially at almost a third the price of its older brother. Something to be aware of up front, this thing is weighty, and since I'm feeling slightly shamed by some commenters for not solo lifting the 42 kilo H2D in that review, here I lifted the 52 kilos of the Carvera Air and its accessories and add-on modules. So I can do it, but honestly don't lift this on your own unless you work out and know you can. Manual handling safety and all. Looks-wise, I think this is solid. Definitely more of an industrial machine, which is what I think it should look like. It suits the style. It's got a big plastic front cover with a lift-off and slide-back mechanism. Now, it looks great with the light on, absolutely gorgeous at night, and you get excellent visibility whilst it's running, and it keeps things safer. That said, the cover does feel a bit clunky compared to what you'd see on modern 3D printers. And because of the way it opens, you will need decent overhead clearance, and that can limit where you actually place the unit. And there's also no obvious way to disconnect this front and use it like a removable faceplate. Again, that's something I'm pointing out because we've seen it done on resin printers. And I have to add one minor annoyance, those branded sticker panels down each side. After about 5 weeks, one of them started peeling. Might have been heat, might have been poor adhesive. Either way, the sharp corner has now stabbed me a few times. Most of the ports on this machine are around the back. You've got your power socket, rocker switch, a USB-C cable for plugging into a PC, a USB-A port labeled charging that didn't charge anything I tried to connect to it, and an emergency stop connector, and one labeled EXT, and I've got no idea what that does. On the back left corner, there is a port that lines up with the removable dust shoe inside the chamber, and that's where you can plug in a shop vac. The bigger Carvera does have a built-in dust collection bin, but honestly, I actually prefer this setup. I think a vac's more versatile because you can actually use it to clean out the chamber too, which is something I found oddly satisfying when I got to using the machine. I did have to print out an adapter on my Bamboo H2D to get it hooked up, and if you're looking for a vac, I honestly recommend this DeWalt Stealth Sonic because it's so quiet, the actual airflow makes more noise than the vacuum's motor, so it's not going to make your ears bleed. I will drop a link in the description, but if you're going to use it, you have to promise not to tell my wife I know how to use a vacuum cleaner. Next to that port is the air inlet for a compressor, and this blows air in at the tool head to cool the bit and blast debris out the way when you're carving. It's mainly used for metal, and I didn't do any metal carving with this. I just didn't have time. You'll see why, we'll get to it. I still did fun stuff. Now you also get this mounting arm that lets you attach a phone or tablet off the right hand side or left hand side of the machine as a controller. Now in theory it's great, in practice it was a nightmare to set up, which was mostly down to Wi-Fi issues. Honestly, I had such a nightmare setting this up, and it all came down to Wi-Fi. The user guide recommends starting with a wired connection, and what I'm going to say now in hindsight is, yeah, I should have followed that advice. You might get lucky, I didn't. It took me half a day to get this thing wirelessly talking to my desktop PC. I had to use laptops and phones and various things, and at one point it locked itself up and just wouldn't unlock. It only came back to life after I took the back off and unplugged several red cables, and I've no idea why that worked, but it did. And I never would have figured this out on my own, so total credit goes to Matthew from the Makera Facebook group, who commented on someone else's post with the exact fix. So seriously, drop a thanks to Matthew in the comments. He's shown here why community support really matters. Not all heroes wear capes. So yeah, I will call out that despite it having Wi-Fi, this is only 2.4 GHz, which is noticeably slow when transferring files, and there's no Ethernet. And again, due to issues or annoyances I'll come on to later, it's pretty clear to me that this device was made with the idea of having a dedicated computer attached at all times. I did try the iPhone out, but this conflicted with the notch on the iPhone, making several key options completely inaccessible from one side or the other. Now mechanically, this thing is mostly rock solid, and it has to be to move this much heavy hardware with precision. The frame is built like a tank with thick piston-like bars and proper ball screws driving the motion. So it's a bit of a shame that everything around that solid core, the covers, the limit switches, even the USB-C cable feels cheap, like 3 for a tenner on AliExpress cheap. And finally on the externals there's the button on top, which only serves as a physical confirmation button when the controller asks for input, so like you've changed a bit and it says confirm to continue. You can either press it on screen or tap that button. Now out of the box, the Carvera Air comes with a ton of handy accessories and a small selection of materials, mainly to walk you through the Makera video demos that I'll get onto later, and then a couple of spares in case you want to do your own projects or they failed and you need to have another go. And you also get a second box of bits, extra tools, collars, safety goggles, the emergency stop button, a manual tool setter, and the phone or tablet arm that I mentioned earlier. There's also a really decent little toolbox included too, with everything you need to set up your stock, which, just to clarify, stock is the word for the thing you're cutting, be it wood, plastic, metal, whatever. I'm not talking about OXO cubes. And it is a nice touch that all the screws and fixings live in one tidy box, because you will be going back to it often. Two tools worth calling out in here is, well, first you've got the spindle collet installer. If you want to change the bit shank size from Makera's standard 1/8 inch or 3mm to the beefier 1/4 inch or 6.35mm, you can do that. Makera sell collets in a range of sizes to match. Sorry, I may have gone a bit beyond absolute beginner there. Turns out I have learned a lot of things. Basically, all the Makera bits have a standard diameter, by bit I mean drilly thing, and you can use this tool to swap out the tool holder in the head to use bigger bits from third parties. Now I've gone condescending. Anyway, cancel me. The other bit is the collar installer. That lets you add depth collars to third-party bits, not just the ones Makera sell, so they always sit at the right height in the tool head. Once those collars are on, swapping bits is ridiculously easy. You just pull down the lever on the side of the mill head, and it kind of feels like a fruit machine. I get a weird amount of joy from using it. All it needs is a casino jingle. Now the next important feature is the wired probe. This is attached to the machine itself. It lives in a little plastic holster on the tool head. This thing is used to scan the margins of your cutting area so you know it's not going beyond the bounds. But more importantly, this is used to detect the height of your stock before a job. You see, in 3D printing, 0 is usually the bed or the bottom of the vat, but here your material height can change from one job to the next. So this tells the machine where the starting location actually is. Now you can skip this step if you're using the same material over and over, and that saves a bit of time. But the more I've used it, I've learned just how versatile this tool is to use. There's one other thing that goes with it. There's also a tool setting button in the back right corner of the bed, and this measures how long a bit is, so then the machine also knows exactly what height to start cutting from and how long the bit is, so it understands when the two parts touch. Now, since this is the first CNC machine I've ever used, I've never had to do this manually, but even as a beginner, I can tell it would be an absolute pain to have to measure this manually every single time, so these extras probably do save a ton of time and hassle. Probably. Possibly. Dunno, you tell me. And there are two more tools I'll quickly mention, and I've left these till last because these are optional extras that you can either buy with the machine as bundles or you can add them later. Now, first is the laser module. On the full-size Carvera, that's built in, but here it's a separate add-on, which helps keep the price down a little if you don't need it. And then there's the tool that I love and hate and mostly love, the 4th axis module. This lets you spin stock along the x-axis, which is now going to be known as the a-axis, and you can carve it from different angles, which means instead of just working in X, Y, and Z, you've now added rotation, which is your 4th axis. We'll get more onto this shortly. That's all the hardware out the way, you know what you're getting here, but what's it actually like to use, especially if you've never touched a CNC before? Well, it's amazing, infuriating, and deeply satisfying, sometimes all at once. You see, at the start, I had no clue what half of this stuff even was, so I did what anyone would do, and I sorted all the parts I didn't understand into one pile, and the bits I did into another. Now, the included manuals help a bit, giving you an overview of the machine and its software, but not much about how to actually operate it if you've got your own projects in mind. Instead, they nudge you towards a set of demo projects, the same ones you've probably seen in half of the YouTube videos out there. And I've got to be honest, it's worth going through a few of these just to cut your teeth with CNC machining. But I, like I expect with most users, ended up living on the Makera wiki with my new best friend Jason, who's featured in all of the guide videos. There's also Roloff, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who's likely sick of me by now after all the support requests I'd sent trying to push this machine far beyond its limits. We'll get to that. Now, having spent hours here, I'll give you a quick tip. Start with the getting started section, obviously, and then go to the how-tos for your particular machine, the Carvera or the Air. Then either try a few of the demo projects, which are annoyingly buried at the bottom of the Air's getting started page, or you can just dive balls deep with Jason's CAM tutorials. And sorry for that visual, Jason, it's just how I talk. If you're new, you probably will find yourself spending most of your time in those video CAM tutorials. And that brings us to software. What the hell is a CAM? Yeah, we need to talk about CAD, CAM, and the controller. So CAD is where the design happens, computer-aided design, where 3D models are made. That's not included here, it's completely its own thing. CAM is where you convert those into tool paths and machine instructions. So for 3D printer users, your slicer is a CAM software. Makera controller is the actual interface for the machine. It's what runs the job and moves the hardware. Again, as a 3D printer comparison, this would be your UI or user interface. On these machines, you run that on a separate device, like a phone, tablet, or computer. So yeah, Makera CAM is their slicing software, which unlocks permanently when you connect it to your machine with the serial number. You will spend most of your time here. It's not like modern 3D printing where you chuck in a model and hit slice. There are dozens of workflows: 2D cuts, V-carves, 3D profiling, PCB routing, laser engraving, and 4th axis turning, across materials like hardwood, softwood, plastic, carbon fiber, and soft metals like aluminium and brass. And you need to learn what the best options for your tasks are and how to go through all the different workflows to achieve it. Now, that might sound like an overwhelming nightmare, but there's two reasons why it's not. First, thankfully, Makera have built-in tool presets for speeds and feeds, but obviously only for their tools. The second thing we'll come on to shortly. First, we need to talk about the ugly part. The software is messy. It's not unusable, but definitely buggy in places. Between the CAM and the controller apps, yes, they're separate, you've got mismatched controls, awkward scaling tools, firmware updates that never finish, Wi-Fi dropouts, strange pathing bugs with the 4th axis, and no early warning if your job won't even fit on the machine. And that last one is infuriating. Why let me go through the entire setup before telling me it's impossible? Now, I watched all of the official videos, and that took me nearly 2 days. Honestly, most of my time using this machine wasn't carving, it was learning their CAM software. And honestly, even now, every time I hear someone in the videos say intuitive CAM software, it makes me laugh, and not in a good way. Now, either every other CAM app out there is a comparable fever dream, or Makera have just never met a UX designer. Now, I could make a whole video absolutely tearing this thing apart. I normally would with 3D printer reviews, but here I'm not going to, because I've got to be honest, I get it. This is new. A year ago, they barely had anything working. 6 months ago, they only had 2D pathing. And if this is the start of a wave of desktop CNC adoption, then hopefully in 5 years from now, we might actually be where 3D printers are now. And that is exciting. I've got to be objective enough to look at this and go, yeah, it's not as good as what I've seen on modern 3D printing, but CNC at home isn't as big as 3D printing. This is an acceptable start. And from what I've read online, you can use third-party CAM software. Fusion 360 works, but it's prohibitively expensive for the home hobbyist. I have heard of a few free options, but I've honestly no idea where to begin, so if you're experienced, please jump in the comments and tell me and other comment readers what's good out there and why. And despite the issues I came across in the CAM software, I think where Makera deserves huge credit is through its documentation. The wiki is absolutely packed with guides that actually teach you how to use the machine and apply it to your own ideas. It's not perfect. I've still got no idea what max depth actually does practically, despite seeing it mentioned in half of the tutorials and videos. But it's still so much more than we get from pretty much any 3D printer company. And if you're planning to join the Makera Facebook group to be part of the community, then this is a great baseline, so please do the community a favor and check out the wiki guides first, just so we don't get people showing up asking how to turn it on. It took me years to get comfortable with resin printers because we had to figure out almost everything ourselves. With the Carvera Air, I was up and running in no time, completely autonomously, and already carving things I actually wanted to make. So let's show some of them. First off, after the sample pirate map engraved on epoxy board that is one of the samples, that came out mint, I moved on to make some Final Fantasy emblems, and these were just cheap auto-generated relief files from Etsy. Not proper 3D, but the results on soft wood actually look really great. It's nothing fancy, but it was proof that it could handle my own models straight away. Now, you are meant to get a pre-cut and pre-drilled wasteboard, but I didn't, so I had to hack one out of the packing board from the box lid. It worked, but only just. And the mini saws they include, gotta be honest, utter shite. Again, AliExpress level quality of tools. The next thing I tried was a pocket cut sign for my mate's wedding card box. He'd actually built this rustic wooden crate, and I carved a nameplate for the front. I just used the Fusion 360 free version with some YouTube tutorials, exported a step file, dropped it into the CAM and ran it. Super clean finish, proper etched look, and I honestly probably could have sold something like this on Etsy if I was that guy. It really felt good to make something people actually wanted. This is a machine that could pay for itself in short time. But the thing I really wanted to try, because of my affinity with 3D models, was fourth axis carving, like full 3D models but in wood, just to prove it works. And it does, as long as your model wraps around the central axis, the CAM software can handle it. What it doesn't do right now is true fourth axis movement. Yet. It rotates, but it currently locks the y-axis, so yeah, my Wolverine model ended up with its cowl wings fused onto the skull. But after pestering Roloff long enough, they sent me a proper fourth axis G-code as a preview of what they've got upcoming in their CAM software, and I got a much better result in both pine and oak, but unfortunately I broke the oak one on cleanup. And they even ran off a Trench Crusade mini for me, warning me that I won't get good detail. But honestly, the detail, it blew me away. Yeah, it's not resin level, but it's still far sharper than FDM printers. And again, it's wood. And who doesn't love getting wood? So as a final showpiece, I ran off a larger Space Marine bust in individual parts, and this was just using the basic 4-axis rotation for now. And whilst it needed a Dremel to clean it up, it still came out great. And it gave me an excuse to buy a new Dremel. And then to finish off, I did have a quick go with the laser module. It mounts easily into the spindle using the same fruit machine lever, and it runs fine, but the safety of it is a bit weak. For example, you only get glasses rather than having shielding built into the cover. It works, but it feels more like a why not add-on than a core feature. But also, why not? I mean, the wiki shows a great example of projects which are both milled and lasered on the one device, so that's pretty cool. Now, honestly, in conclusion, I think this machine's brilliant. Now, I've never used any other desktop CNCs, so I can't tell you if it's the best, but as a complete beginner, this took me from clueless to confidently carving my own projects in just a few days. Makera let me figure this out entirely under my own steam, and now I'm part of a buzzing community of users who are actually excited to help each other. Yes, there's plenty to improve, but that just tells me this is going to get better with time. The software's messy, buggy, and about as intuitive as an IKEA instruction manual written in Wingdings. But that's all fixable. The important stuff, the hardware, the documentation more than anything, the workflow is already miles beyond what I've seen other brands deliver. I think Makera could learn a lot from the 3D printing community, specifically the brands and what they've done with the slicers. But I also think all of those brands in the 3D printing community could learn a hell of a lot if they implement one iota of what Makera have done here in their user guides. Honestly, I love this. Probably just because for once, I'm sawing up wood and doing manly stuff, not just whinging about plastic toy soldiers. This is one of the coolest tools I have ever had to play with. And if you're tempted to try one and this video helped, please hit the affiliate link below before you buy. It won't cost you anything, but it throws a few monies my way, and I'll chuck in any available discount codes in the description too when I have them. And please, let me know in the comments if you want more CNC content, or if you've got other machines I should try. I've got a couple of laser gadgets lined up, and at some point I'll get back to wargaming. Maybe. I don't know. Seriously, if you found this helpful and if you think I did good and or I should do more like this, I'm currently at a bit of a crisis point in my channel where I'm having to decide if I'm still a wargaming channel or more of a general maker's tech reviewer. Either way, I want to say a massive thanks for watching, with extra love to our channel members who are on screen now, you absolute legends. If you want early access, Discord roles, or your name in the credits, you know what to do. Until next time, I need a wood-related quote. I am Groot. Fohammer out.